All right, today we're going to dive into something that's happening inside all of us, pretty much all the time. It's this quiet internal struggle that shapes almost every choice we make, from our careers to what we buy. It's all about what we want, and more importantly, why we want it. So let's get into it. You've felt this, right? That subtle, kind of nagging feeling of being pulled in two completely different directions. It happens with the big life stuff, for sure, but you can also feel it in the small day-to-day choices. It's like this constant tug-of-war. And that's it, right there. Those are the two sides. On one end of the rope is what you genuinely, truly want, and on the other is the much, much louder pull of what the world seems to be telling you you should want. This is the exact tension we're going to unpack today.
So what do we call this phenomenon? Well, it actually has a name, thanks to the philosopher René Girard. He called it mimetic desire. Now I know that sounds super academic, but I promise you, it's one of the most useful ideas for just making sense of life today.
Okay, to really get this, let's just use a simple story. Picture this. You're walking through a big, crowded street market. You've got all the sounds, all the colors, all the smells, everything's vying for your attention. And at first, it's all just kind of a blur, you know? Nothing really grabs you. But then, you see it. Over in the corner, there's a small crowd of people, and they're all gathered around one single stall. They're just looking.
So what happens next? You feel a pull. You get curious. You just kind of find yourself drifting over there to see what the big deal is. Now, pause for a second and think about that impulse. Were you actually drawn to whatever they were selling? Or were you drawn to the attention of the crowd? And this is the absolute core of the whole idea. The crowd didn't gather because the object was inherently special. The object became special because the crowd gathered around it. Their desire basically taught you what to desire.
So that's what mimetic desire is. It's just a fancy way of saying we imitate what other people want. It's like a mental shortcut, right? Instead of doing the hard work of figuring out what's valuable for ourselves, we just look at what other people are chasing and think, well, that must be the good stuff.
Of course, this isn't just about street markets. This pattern is woven into pretty much everything in our lives. And it creates these, well, let's call them mimetic traps. Let's take a look at where they pop up.
Does any of this ring a bell? You know, the high-status job that everyone oohs and ahs over, or moving to that cool neighborhood where everyone else is moving, that lifestyle that just looks so perfect on social media. These are all incredibly powerful models of desire that we see every single day.
And you know, that's what makes them so sneaky. These mimetic traps, they don't show up with a big warning sign. They disguise themselves as ambition, or success, or just, the obvious next step. It feels like you're on the right path, but it might just be the path the crowd picked out for you.
Okay, so if we're all swimming in this sea of borrowed desires, how in the world do we find our way back to what we truly want? How do we tell the difference between what's real and what's just an imitation?
Well, the trick is to pay attention to the feeling. Mimetic wants, they tend to feel really urgent, almost frantic. They make you feel restless, and they create this constant need to compare yourself to others. But your authentic desires, they feel steady, calm. They bring clarity, not confusion. They make you feel grounded. One of them drains you, and the other one, it makes you feel more like yourself. This brings us to the ultimate filter. There's one simple question you can ask yourself about pretty much any big decision. You just have to pause and honestly ask, if absolutely no one were watching, would I still want this? Because if the answer is no, if the desire just completely deflates the second you take away that imaginary audience, well, then you have your answer. You've just found a mimetic trap. It was never really about the thing itself, it was about the performance of wanting it. Look, figuring this stuff out isn't just some neat intellectual exercise. It has huge implications for the kind of life you actually end up building for yourself. This is all about shifting from a life of imitation to a life of true intention. The real danger here isn't just making the wrong choice. The real danger is not actually choosing at all. It's sleepwalking through major decisions, and then waking up 10, maybe 20 years down the road and realizing the life you're living is one you just sort of absorbed from everyone around you.
Your real life, the one that's going to truly nourish you and sustain you, it starts the moment you decide to stop imitating. It begins when you finally decide that your own internal compass is more important than the noise of the crowd.
So where do you find these authentic desires? You look for the quiet things, the hobbies, the curiosities that just keep popping up over the years. The things you find yourself doing just because you love them, no audience needed. Those are like little breadcrumbs, leading you back to yourself.
And that's the question I want to leave you with. In the middle of all the noise, all the expectations, what's that one quiet desire that keeps calling you back? That's the one worth listening to. Thanks for turning into this explainer.